and stream live now. Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, the podcast, is now being broadcast on NPN Voice. NPN Voice can be found on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud, and now on Audible and Amazon Music, and anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, the podcast, now on NPN Voice. NPN Voice. Got voice. You heard?
Suave afternoon, Suave afternoon, Suave afternoon. This is Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, and creator. Hope you guys having a suaveless day.
Yeah, and with that, let's commence the pay. Okay, I'm so suavelous, you so suavelous. Together we can fix the trauma that's befalling us. Divine social interactions remains marvelous. Mind-blowing, suavelicious talk, higher consciousness. But think, let not your hearts be troubled. Dr. Brother Suave, divine light give you double.
Greetings, this is Dr. Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, and creator, and your divine social therapist and the host of Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave. Greetings, champions, and again, Happy New Year. I just want to welcome you to Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, and hope all is suave with you guys. Oh man, this has been a amazing new year, and I'm still celebrating. You know how people celebrate their birthdays. Oh, greeting my sorrow and happy Founders Day. I appreciate everything, man. I just want to thank God for waking me up, seeing another year and another day that I've never seen before. I want to thank God for allowing me another year and another day to get it right. I want to thank God for another day and another year to tell those friends, those family members, those who I love and respect, I love you guys. Yes, I am blessed to see another time, generation after generation. I'm blessed. Oh my God, I am so blessed. And when I think about it, do you know, this is the 4th season, episode 1. Do you know, in about 3 weeks, it will be exactly 1 year. Dr. Brother Suave will be celebrating 1 year of social therapy with Dr. Brother Suave. Time has really flown. And, you know, sometimes, you know, people start and they get discouraged. And I'm going to tell you, I had some challenges of guests not showing up, but I just want to thank all you guys who constantly came on, who supported. I want to thank the guests. I want to thank my engineer. I want to thank the producer, the wonderful, the talented, the brilliant, and the brains behind the operation, the success architect, Sheldon B. Williams. I want to thank you, man. He has been so helpful, so creative, helping our guests when they're having technical difficulties. He's just always been there. And I want to give a special shout out to my mentor. Listen, this is Brother Wally. He has came on and covered me on my time of absence. He has covered me when guests were just had last minute emergencies, and he showed up as a guest. I'm just truly blessed to have people like that on my team, have people like that to have my back. Listen, it's nothing more. As I'm so grateful. How you doing, brother Vanlist, man? Gratitude. And I have that gratitude because it's important that you have people in your space to have your back, man. And that brother who just came on, Vanlist, he's always checking on me. You know, he is the person that I would consider family. Because guess what? You know, relatives, biological, there is no choice in the matter. Family, there's a choice because those individuals choose to be in your life. They choose to support you. And guess what? When you're family to them, you choose to be in their life. You choose to support them. And I just want to tell all those out there who support me, you didn't have to do it, but you did. And I'm grateful. Anybody know me, I'm not going to take you for granted. I really appreciate you. So it's just a amazing feeling to have people in my life like that. And I'm grateful. I am forever grateful. So I'm not going to prolong. I just want to give a couple of birthday shout outs because I said, I wanted to start doing this. And I also said I wanted to just go ahead and come on this show solo. I love it. I want to be transparent. I don't want to embarrass people. Sometimes, people concerned about their brand and I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. But when I'm on here, I'm being me, my authentic me, and those who know me, I can be very controversial. I can be very straightforward. And as you see, I'm getting a little more comfortable. I'm telling you, when I'm one-on-one, I really can, get down. But I'm getting used to this, seeing this camera. I'm becoming more and more comfortable. But I'm happy that I'm able to do this. I don't have to ask questions. I don't need to make sure I don't say anything that may embarrass my guests. But I'm just going to do this thing. So I'm going to give a few birthday shout outs. I want to first thank. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Martin Luther King. His birthday was on January 15. We're celebrating the life of him, and the great works that he have done. And we have to just forever be grateful for him and all those people who supported him and him having a great team. He has done some incredible things and we have to recognize them. And also want to recognize one of dear friends of mine, attorney James A. Jones. Happy birthday to you. Also, Keitha Sharp. Keitha Sharp is didn't know her, but I met her a few years back. She actually is the daughter of my football coach, Coach Willie Sharp from Opelika. Played for Opelika for years, and it's crazy. Now we all adults, and I met his daughter. Wow, and she actually lives here in Georgia. Man, it's incredible. But I just want to tell her happy birthday. And then Valerie Neal, she grew up down the street from me. And I grew up in Opelika, which is in Miami on York Street. Great person, great cook, I tell you. Oh, man, she could put down. And my cousin just wanted, her birthday is on the 19th, which is tomorrow. Mo, I want to tell you happy birthday and have a blessed and prosperous day. So as I said on previous sessions, I just want to, do a little solo. Of course, I'm still going to have guests. But I'm enjoying this time. I'm not having to worry about any technical difficulty because when I get on, I get on. I don't have to worry about any issues with the people having difficulties getting on or coming on the last minute. Me and the engineer, we work real smooth together and we just come on. Excuse me. We don't have any issues. So I enjoy it, and I can be me. I can be my authentic me. And I don't have to worry about making mistakes. And I never worry about messing up or any imperfections. I'm imperfect, but the bottom line is the message that I'm trying to deliver. And I'm not worrying about the imperfections because I'm always worrying about progress. And that's what I'm going to continue to do, make progress. I guarantee you that. So tonight we're going to just discuss a few topics, a few things I want to talk about. It may ruffle some feathers, it may not. I don't know. But the bottom line is I hope that this will bring some insight. Hope it brings some understanding. And I hope at the end of the day, there's some clarification that comes with tonight's topic. So tonight the topic is sometimes people forget what you bring to the table until they see you at another table being productive and being prosperous and showing love to others. So tonight, hey, because sometimes people just forget about when you first met them or they first met you and you seem to be impressive, you being authentic and genuine, something that they may have never seen before. And they really impressed. They're like, oh man, but not just the words, the actions aligned. They aligned. The next thing you know, hey, somehow down the road, they forgot. So let's talk about that. So there are so many different relationship issues and topics that exist that we can even discuss. However, I just want to talk about having someone in your life who at first they forget. They see who you are, your actions are consistent with the words, but somehow later down the road they tend to forget what you brought to the table. And before I get into it, just that I've seen so many situations where and I was going to wait to the end of the show to ask this question, but I'm going to ask this question before I give my perspectives. Why do I see so many people in relationships with people who have nothing to offer? They're not intellectually compatible. spiritually compatible, economically compatible, developmentally compatible. And these people have so much patience with these individuals. But when someone has self-esteem, hardworking, being able to be a provider, be responsible, be respectable, be reliable, and has vision, these people have to have very little patience with them. And they seem to not be able to handle, do a lot of projections saying, people are intimidated by strong individuals. But the reality is they are intimidated by people. So if you're listening, champions, go ahead and comment in the comment box, because I would like to hear it. I'm going to keep going, and hopefully one of you guys answer that question. Oh, snap, bandless. It says here, bro, you gave me the incentive to start into corrections, and I am grateful to you to give the insight back then and to this day. I am grateful for your energy and time always, brother, Dr. Suave. Yeah, listen. That brother there, we often talk, and I could say, man, the brother has really grown, developed his heart, his mind, his humility. It's just always been open to listening, always available for correction without having excuses, always having a kickback, but he's always puts his ear to listen. It's a lot of times when I used to tell people, regardless how smart you are, intellect will never trump wisdom. And I've seen him grow. We have had discussions, and sometimes he had a perspective, and I would just give him a different perspective based on my years of knowledge, my insight, my experiences. And he would always take that into consideration. Sometimes he had his own perspective, but then he would process that, and he's like, yo, let me try it out my way, and let me try it out your way. And again, trying to put it together. And a lot of times people have a hard time listening to elders, listening to people who have some knowledge, because I always tell people nobody's out trying to hurt you. And when you have that mindset, sometimes you really need to do some self-reflection and evaluations. Essentials is vital. Transition is inevitable. Yes, absolutely. And sometimes, man, you have to realize that you will grow if you're humble. When people are trying to offer you some insight, they're not trying to hurt you. They're really trying to help you. And when you're being oppositional, being defiant, you're only hurting yourself. And I just want to tell him, man, listen, it's just like, for example, I was blessed to start my career very, very, oh my God, very early. A lot of times, he was a witness to see, I grew up in Opelika, 2130 York Street. If anybody know about Opelika, I grew up right next door to the Glass House. Anybody know the Glass House? No, it's a notorious Glass House, a trap house that many murders, many rapes, many killings, drugs. The feds couldn't close it down. The Opelika Police Department couldn't close it down. Miami-Dade Police Department couldn't close it down. It just had gone on for years until just maybe a few years back, maybe 3 years. I believe most 3 years, that house was finally closed down, and the owner actually sold it. But it's just crazy. But he watched me go from all the temptations, resisting the temptations, and I would tell him, listen, there are so many ways you can change your life. And I used to always tell people, listen, if you want to start a career and all you need is a high school diploma and you don't have any record, man, you're 19, man, just go ahead. And there's so many ways to maneuver to get in the system. I said, man, go ahead and apply these out, like the paper applications. Man, they would hire like clockwork because they always was understaffed, and the officers were underpaid. But since they was underpaid, I would tell them, hey, listen, bro, go there, get your certification, go to the county, work there, transfer to the police department. If you want, you go to a fire department, but you're getting in the system. And man, there's so many. And guess what? The young brother followed my lead, and he, and just did a lot of things, as I was telling him, just to believe in yourself, and ultimately became a successful business person. And so I just wanted to share that because he's always open to learn. And the same thing with me. I was in situations with people who gave me insight, and because I was humble, I listened and I was productive. And a lot of times people don't understand that, but because when I do something, and I'm a great student, so when I'm a great student, I listen, I excel, and I master, and I show up and show out. And sometimes people misunderstand that, but they're not understanding you have to be a great student first. And so anyway, I just want to tell him thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the time you supported me on the show. And I just want to tell you thank you. Thank you so much. So again, back to the topic. So again, there are so many relationship issues we can talk about, but I want to talk about, what people bring to the table. And sometimes people tend to forget. And I wanted to, but I didn't see anybody answer the question. So what I'm going to do is give my perspective. As I say, projection, I often hear people say, Black men are intimidated by strong Black women. And listen, I done had my share of relationships, marriages, and stuff like that. And I personally witnessed, I've personally been told on multiple occasions, that I intimidate them. Of course, no one's going to admit these things publicly because, trust, we're in an era where people have big egos and they often lie. And so anyway, and I realized that when a person is don't have all those the stability, the low self-esteem, don't have any ability to provide their own stability, those individuals who don't have very low standards and a lot of patience, they like to be in the positions to control. They like to be in the positions that they can control it, and they can constantly be gassed up and told things. And these people are experts on telling them what they want to hear. Because, people always say that they want to hear the truth, but that's just not true. But anyway, and so that's my perspective, is that these people have a lot of patience with them because they know these people can tell them anything. And I know several associates and people I grew up with. I've seen people who in my neighborhoods and outside my neighborhoods, all they did was tell these ladies what they want to hear, sold them dreams, promised them. And because the RRJ is so rampant, and that is romanticize, rationalize, and justify, these people just know that if they can't see it, touch it, or feel it, it's just not real. But they will put it in their head and say, this person promised me, when they know it's a high probability that if they couldn't take care of themselves, how are they going to do those things for you? But anyway, I realized that people just love to hear lies. They don't always want to really embrace the truth. And when the truth hits them, they don't know how to deal with it. So when they have these people come in their lives who actually have the ability to produce, it just seems so unreal. And they tend to, should I say, sabotage it. Because, I tell you, there is no lie. I swear, I've been told, like, I just can't believe this. You open the doors, you take care of yourself, you take care of your responsibilities. You've done these things, and they always say, I never met a dude. And I'm like, whoa, where you been? Maybe you need to expand your circle, because there are a lot of great, productive, positive Black men out here. And I know some people gonna say, where they at? Well, you know what? When you start changing your attitude, changing your circle, and being more optimistic and positive about life, and being able to speak those things into existence, because words have meanings, and say you're going to meet this person, and it tends to happen. That's I can guarantee you that things tend to happen. So do understand. So you have to change your mindset and about everything. So I'm going to try to stay on topic. I'm going to try to stay on topic because I'm processing so much on my head right now about these people, because I see it all the time. I see it in my sessions. I see it in my couples, and it just over the years, man. You see people together for years and years and years and years, And when I say years, I'm just going to give 30 years that these people stay in these relationships and constantly bragging. That's why I said it, one of my first shows of the year. Don't come in this year complaining about how people treat you, because you really maybe want to take a look at what you're doing or what you're allowing, how people to treat you, because people treat you what you accept, and you don't have to accept it, but they treat you. Because a lot of times people make a lot of threats, but they realize that you're just making threats, but you definitely won't follow through on your promise. So again, we have to make sure people will never get comfortable with us. Okay? You don't want anybody to get comfortable with you, because that's what happens. People get very comfortable in these relationships and they forget what you brought to the table. And you never want people to forget what you bring to the table. Because, because what happened is they will. That's the unfortunate thing, that people get comfortable. And when they get comfortable, trust, you need to watch out. So here are about 4 things I would like to talk about when people get comfortable with you that can actually happen. And so, but guess what? Before I do that, before I talk about the things, we're just going to go into a quick station identification, and we'll be right back with Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave.
Tune in and stream live now. Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, the podcast, is now being broadcast on NPN Voice. NPN Voice can be found on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud, and now on Audible and Amazon Music, and anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, the podcast, now on NPN Voice. NPN Voice. Got voice. You heard?
What's up, everyone? I'm Brandy the Disconnector, wife, show host, entrepreneur, investor, and ICS certified life coach, here to tell you that I'm on NPNTv, the network that is by us and for us. Lock in and let's get it.
Hello, my name is Goma Marie Conde. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified trauma counselor, and I am on NPN TV.
We're shining bright, and we're shining the light on us like no other. Neighborhood Planet. Our neighborhood, our world.
Back with Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, talking about people forget what you bring to the table until they see you at another table. All right. So as I was talking about, it was just about 4 things I just wanted to talk about that you got to watch out when people get comfortable and they end up doing certain things that's evident. How you doing? Oh my God, Baba. How you doing? How you doing? Listen, I just want to tell you, this is a person who, Baba is always blessing me. He's like a Dr. CB. The man is a guru in health, nutrition, and how to eat right, live right. And he is a person who is just pure. You know, he made, and the most humblest person I've met in my life. I mean, he's wonderful, great, and he has never, ever departed our conversation without saying he loves me. And I love you too, Baba. Thank you so much for your support. So anyway, And so the things that you have to watch out for people when they start to take you for granted and getting comfortable is one of the things they do is become very reckless, and that's reckless out of the mouth. They say things, they get very comfortable talking to you any kind of way. They will initially come because remember we talk about the representative. People come in there with that role, trying to play meek or trying to play very nice. And then once you don't, that's why I always tell people, listen, I'm going to tell you, I am very straightforward, and people who don't understand what assertiveness is misinterpret assertiveness and perceive it as aggression. I tell people what's important to me from the get-go because I don't want them to say, I didn't communicate. I'm going to be effective in it because I'm going to tell them what's important now. Because people got to realize when you first meet someone, you don't want to be, hey, how you doing? You don't want to be, oh, this brother, how you doing? This brother helped me in my transition when I moved back to the A. Appreciate you, man. He's a great brother. Man, listen, great friend, great support system. So what I do is I tell people what's important to me because it's a choice for them to move forward. But the one thing about you won't get this representative from me. How anybody know me, how I am in private is how I am in public. So anybody who comes on, all the champions who support me, my family, my friends, my associates, everyone know how I am in private is how I am in public. There is no person who act a certain way in private, act like they into hip hop or this and this and that. Oh, how you doing? Oh, appreciate you. And so people tend to, and then when they'll play a minister or play, oh God, but how I am in public is the same person I am in private. There is no deviating from that because I'm going to be the authentic me. I'm going to be me with my children. I'm going to be me with my family. I'm going to be me with my associates. I'm going to be me with any person I deal with. Somebody was complimenting me about being straightforward. I was my brother Ed Brown, a mentor of mine. Listen, you people need to know who you are, so it won't be no justification of why and say you change. This is who I am, and I put work in to who I am and how I grow and how I try to be straightforward. And one of the things, hey, that's my mentor, the one I was telling you about, who always have my back. He shows up and show out. If I'm missing or not well, he will cover for me. He will cover for the guests who didn't show up. And I just want to tell you, that's the one I was talking about. Thank you, Brother Wally. Thank you so much. Peace to you. And so a lot of times when people get in these relationships, in fact, let me just talk about, again, that brother brought so much to me in life as a mentor, a person and again, this is what I'm talking about. I brought it up on a couple of shows. I was like, hey, when I got out of pocket and I got a little reckless, he checked me. Because again, you can't get comfortable with anybody. And so he knew I was going through something, but regardless of what I was going through, it still doesn't give me the right to be reckless out the mouth. And he checked me. And so again, sometimes we all have to be comfortable. Being mindful. Somebody get too comfortable with you, they get reckless. So that's one of the things you have to make sure and look out for when people start getting reckless out the mouth. And another thing about this thing is getting comfortable with their appearance, their weight, their clothes, and their hygiene. I'm telling you. So you have to be very mindful because sometimes people get so comfortable. Again, the representative is you see these people, they putting the filters on. They always having their best clothes, and they always having their hair done. Hygiene is right. To me, that's another form of catfishing because I done heard some horror stories about these people like, wow, it's how they got them on social media, but they are not like that after they meet and after they link up. And after a while, they start falling off, eating biscuits and putting all that weight. They start wearing the pullback ponytails and that filter makeup they be having online. That's not how they looking in real life. So again, trust, hygiene. And some of the horror stories, they be like, oh, some of these dudes be having extra cologne, smell like who done did and got away with it, And again, you got to watch out for that stuff. You understand? So when people get comfortable, they start to fall off. They start not to be that person who you initially met, and they forget what you brought to the table. And also, this is to me, the last two are killers. And this is compliments and manners. Oh, people get comfortable with you and they forget to say things like, I love you. They forget to say things like compliments. You're great. You're wonderful. I appreciate you. Those things. You say them from day one to day end. And I think that's one thing we have to be mindful of. It's like we're putting a cap on respect. We're putting a cap on love. We're putting a cap on appreciation. And this is what I'm saying. You cannot take people for granted. I know, you get complacent, but this is the thing. It's just like staying in shape a lifetime. You don't get complacent with your body, staying complacent with your spiritual growth, staying complacent with your personal growth, staying complacent with your hygiene. This is what you have to constantly put work on. And you don't be complacent with your associates. I mean, your wives, your husbands, your children, your family. You have to be a person who's committed. Okay, Brother Bandit said loyalty and integrity are very, very rare nowadays. Absolutely. We have to understand integrity was key. I like that, because people forget about being loyal and they forget about integrity. And I think those are vital. And I'm going to always stay optimistic. I know sometimes I have challenges. Just sometimes people just let you down. But I have to redirect the way I think and look at it, that people do people stuff, but I'm going to still be optimistic that people do people stuff and people do good stuff and people do bad stuff. People do great stuff and people do average stuff. So I have to be mindful and always check myself because, again, I'm constantly trying to grow. I'm constantly trying to keep myself accountable, which is integrity. My personal integrity is everything to me. You understand? I'm going to stay loyal to myself so I can learn how to be loyal and stay loyal to other people who are being loyal to me. And the last one is manners. People just totally, again, you can't take people for granted. You have to continue to say, excuse me. You have to continue to say, oh, my bad, I apologize. You have to continue to say, I'm sorry. Or can you, or please, ask questions. Don't sit there and just because, when people come to visit your house, no matter how long you've been knowing them, people, we still have to respect that this is their house. So you don't just go walk through people front through their refrigerator and do things. Always exercise restraint and discipline and show respect. Because I could tell you, no matter who you are, I don't want you to get comfortable and think you could do anything in my house. And that means anybody. I'm talking about anybody. I'm not putting saying certain people could do it. I'm talking about anybody. It could be mom, dad, sister, brother, child, or whatever. This is your space. And if you don't be mindful of that, people start doing things. And I'm telling you, anything going unaddressed and progressively get worse. So this is why you have to be mindful of creating and setting boundaries, because let me tell you, trust, there are habitual boundary crossers out there. Habitual. They'll do certain things. So it starts off going in the refrigerator, then it starts off taking a little something out of your house, taking a little things and just not asking. And next thing you know, you're looking for your things and it's gone. And trust. And the reason I say with anybody, because, and I think all of us have experienced your child going in your pocket or your wallet or your purse, taking a couple of dollars off out of there. And they'll say, well, I just thought, no, you have to make sure you communicate effectively and don't let anybody take you for granted, because they don't know what your intentions on doing that. But even if they don't know, you have to be able to respect boundaries. And I think that's very, very important. So you have to always show manners. Always say, excuse me. You don't sit there and step across your wife or your husband or your child and don't say, excuse me. Everyone deserves respect, and you can't sit there and do something and don't say, you're sorry. Your children, they may be your children, you brought them on this earth, but they still deserve the respect to say, I'm sorry, And you can't get records out of your mouth and talk to them any kind of way, because again, they deserve respect. Because what happens is, let's say you continue as a parent being a habitual boundary crosser, and then you want to sit there and throw scripture at them saying about honor their mother and father, and they have longer days on earth. But it's another side of that. Children don't, parents don't be provoking children. And see, this is what I'm saying. So when you give respect, you get respect. So you have to be able to address those issues of respect and don't think that you the one deserve respect and our children don't. Okay. So this is why, like I say, I always put so much effort and not taking anyone for granted, because I'm definitely not going to allow anyone to take me for granted. And I think sometimes when we're not mindful of that, and I know personally, I bump a lot of heads because people think they can, say certain things to me, and then they can't get certain things said back to them. And I remember when I was younger, I don't know, I had to be 14, 15. I remember my dad said something to me. It was like, the moment they embarrass you is the moment they get checked. And so sometimes people need to feel what they're given. And I think this is why so many people like to play victim, because what they do is so many people allow them to be disrespectful and be records out of the mouth, and no one checked them. When someone checks them, they feel so offended because everybody else failed them. And one thing I learned is that the people who care and love you, they're going to say something back to you. They're going to tell you what you're doing and how offensive you are. But the people who don't love and respect or even care, they just go ahead and let you continue with that behavior and continue to assassinate your own character by continuing with these reckless behaviors. Okay. So I try to be mindful of those things. Okay. So I always try to make sure you create boundaries with everybody and making sure they know what you brought to the table so they won't forget. You got to let people know your worth. I'm just telling you. So many times people go through so many crises. So many people go through so much trying to understand their worth, man. This is why my mantra is self-love. One should have unconditional love for themselves, because life is too short and too precious for our intellectual justification and excuses. We have to always, and I say always, know your worth. Because if you don't know your worth, people will treat you like anything. Okay, so you have to make sure they get a clear understanding that you have standards. Okay, and not that backwards and forward fighting for respect. No. And because you're going to constantly get disrespect after disrespect. So you're not going to spend that time fighting for respect. This is why I say you don't have to demand respect. The way you carry yourself, it commands it. Okay. So what happens is once they fail to acknowledge your concerns, then it's time to really see who's the problem, or just maybe it's time to remove yourself. And that's just one of the things I think that you have to be mindful. See, and so when this happens, situations sometimes get worse. They get complicated, and sometimes these people realize that actually they messed up. Okay, so what happens is they end up having really, really a lot of regrets. So Bandler says, always know your worth, and if you don't, then no one will give you your value. Absolutely. This is what I'm saying. People don't understand. You have to know your worth. My boo says, Tammy Johnson says, chiming in on Dr. Brother Suave. Much love. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tammy. And so what happens is you got to know your worth. And a lot of times, man, people go through crisis and then they have their epiphanies about their worth. Listen, this is why I tell you, invest in yourself. Get mentor, get counseling, read, expand your horizon, get a better circle, get out of the circle that you've been used to, get in people who can stretch you. Because I'm telling you, this is so important to know your worth. And when you know your worth and learn it, you can be more empathetic how people who know their worth and why they have standards and why they don't put up with foolery. Okay? It opens your eyes to, sometimes people say, oh man, they don't have patience. Listen, we got one life, one soul, one heart. We protect it at all costs. So when you know your worth, you definitely, hey brother, it's Andrew Allen. How you doing? Appreciate you. So when you know your worth, you're not going to spend time demanding respect. You command the way you carry yourself. So here's about 6 scenarios that I'm going to discuss about when people realize that they messed up and they forgot what you brought to the table. And here's are the 6 ones. They tend to recognize that they effed up when they see others benefit. And what I'm saying is like, you know how sometimes you like, you know what, these people are not appreciating with me. And I'm leaving because I didn't talk to them. I gave them opportunity. And so they're not realizing it. So when you leave, again, people tend to have epiphanies as a result of crisis. So when these people realize these situations that they didn't mess up and they forgot what you brought to the table, they realize because they know you was a good catch. They know you was a great person. They know you was a provider. They know you was a great lover. They know that you was a person who had morals, values, commitment, and all just the package. But guess what? Then they realized they messed up. Then all of a sudden they had this epiphany. And here's another one. When they seeing you doing it on your own, then they try to create friction, which is crazy because you know how some people, everybody experiences, when people mess up because so many people lack humility and lack the ability to apologize, lack the ability to say I'm sorry, and lack the ability to say my bad, they tend to make the situation worse. They tend to make it worse. And then they actually resent you for you having a standard. You know how when you step it up and you no longer tolerate their foolishness and their disrespect, you're like, I'm not tolerating. They resent you because they don't sit there and check themselves like, you know what? This person don't need to be treated this way. But they act like children and they resent you because you got a standard. And this is crazy. But again, these are the situation and scenario that people who don't realize what you brought to the table, they tend to get frustrated. And here's something else. Some will even try to get back with you or cause problems in your current relationship. Again, they know they messed up. You done left them. Hey, baby, please. Baby, please. Oh, I'm sorry. I won't do it again. You done heard that story before. And even if you've never heard it before, there's a high probability you done verbalized to them your standards. You done verbalized to them that you won't take this. You have verbalized to them this was important to you. And guess what? You decide to stick by your guns and not be a liar. So what happens is people are so used to people making threats, they think you that person. So they take you for granted, just like they have taken other people for granted in the past. But guess what? You decided, no, I'm not going to deal with that. And so you're not going to allow them an opportunity to come back. And so when people don't have their way, they're very temperamental, and they're very adolescent, very juvenile. And what they do is try to create problems in your relationship. They knowing that you guys are completely over. They want to call, they want to do comments, they want to do silly, immature things. And I just got to say this. Sometimes they even go to social media and try to, what that lady says, supercharge your name, scandalize your name, all that. They tend to do all those things. And we're talking about not 20-year-olds. We're talking about old heads. We're talking about people who don't understand emotional intelligence, people who are very vindictive, people who are childlike. They go to social media. I've talked about this before. They go on there sharing their personal issues and personal relationship issues on social media and being used for other people's entertainment. And this is what people are doing right now. Trust. This is what they do. They try to slander your name. But it also validates the theory, hurt people hurt people. Yes. Yes, great topic. Tammy says, great topic. Respect, trust, and communication is essential. Absolutely. It is essential. Communication is, again, you have to tell people, and again, it's important that you communicate with them. And when they don't acknowledge your request, is it either, and don't sit there and say, well, I'm not communicating effectively. It's just like sometimes people have inability to comprehend, or they just so stuck in their ways of those toxic relationships that they had in the past that that becomes their instincts. It becomes who they are. And if they don't take time to re-examine that and realize how counterproductive those behaviors were as a result of toxic previous relationships, they're going to continue with that. And we at an age where we can't be always holding adult hands, I mean, there's nothing wrong being patient, but again, they have to be mindful. So, and one of the other things is one of the worst things that you can do is get comfortable and take your partner for granted. See, unbeknownst to them, they tend to minimize their partner's worth. So again, you have to be mindful, because if you don't, you start to take your partner for granted. So again, you that's the worst thing you do. Get so comfortable. That's why I tell you, I'm not gonna let anybody get comfortable with me. Mom, dad, sister, brother, children, because what they do will take you for granted, and they'll underestimate your worth. And I'm just gonna say, it's like, for example, you're a person who's committed and doing the right things and trying to create a legacy and a future with this individual. That takes hard work. Anyone knows who runs a business and run the business, trying to raise a family, trying to leave a legacy, trying to work on that personal growth and development, trying to eat right, trying to maintain weight, trying to have good, healthy eating habits, trying to have good health. That takes work. And when somebody is minimizing that, they're taking you for granted. They're really taking you for granted. And I tell you, it's not a good feeling to be taken for granted. And you have to be always mindful. So you don't want anybody to take you for granted. So like the topic say, people sometimes forget what you bring to the table until they see you at another table being prosperous and looking out for others and showing love. So if you don't want for someone to say, I'm fed up with this, don't take them for granted. If they tell you something, again, when someone says something, don't project how you feel, how you say frivolous words and frivolous things. Understand, people who invest in themselves, and you start seeing the results of people investing in themselves. So when they invest in a conversation, saying something to you, trust this is what they mean, because this is who they are. Okay, so be mindful. And there's another one. Some even miss all the great things that you do for them, but for some reason they struggle with showing appreciation for all the great things that you've done for them. This reminds me of that character on the movie with Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy called Life, and Can't Get Right. Again, some people, their dysfunction is so indoctrinated in their DNA by seeing dysfunctional relationship after dysfunctional relationship. They can't get right. So, again, when people show you who they are, that's who they are. And again, you have to invest in yourself and really do a self-examination, because I'm telling you, a lot of times, man, when you in those relationships and in those generational curses, patterns of repetitions, and insanity cycle, you do this stuff and it's such a norm in your life. Saying hi, saying apologizing, verbally communicating, using your words, breaking out of the patterns of saying because again, use your words. All those things are essential in having productive communication, productive relationships, clear communications. So therefore, it won't be any misinterpretation. So again, it's very, very essential. Again, it's important that you be mindful of always remembering what they brought to the table or what you brought to the table. And lastly, practice being grateful for what your partner and who they are and what they bring in your life. You gotta really look at, and people say, don't compare me to this person, don't compare me to that person. It's important that you compare, because you comparing what you want, you comparing what you don't want, and the characteristics of these people and the characteristics of these people, and it's important. And you learn to appreciate. Again, no one's perfect, and we don't have to use that in our conversations when we're having a debate in a relationship. We all know this. But we always being mindful of progression. We are mindful of what people bring to the table. You may have somebody who may be aggressive, and the person over here is passive. Assertive, and they're showing you that you can tone it down a little bit. This person who you may be one of those parents who want to be overly aggressive with your son, and then that person say, hey, listen, tone it down a little bit. You may have that person who's great in mathematics and you great in doing the money. Being able to appreciate what they bring to the table. Some people are great providers, but then they're not necessarily good with organizing their bills. You have to be mindful what they bring to the table, and you have to understand what you bring to the table, and y'all bring that dialogue to the table and have a discussion. Okay. So I was able to discuss these topics. I'm happy. Listen, I enjoy doing these shows by myself. And before I close, again, I want to go back to that question. If anybody have it, the question that I say is, why do so many women get into a relationship with guys who have very little to offer, meaning money, stability, lack of being responsible, reliable, and respectful, and accept these low standards, but have so much patience with these individuals, but then have so little patience with these men who are considered the well-to-do or socioeconomically stable? Riddle me that. And so I just wanted to ask that question again before I close out. And if no one has the answer, I still appreciate it, because I had my perspective and have my perspective on that. And so I'm just happy to be able to talk to you guys. And just remember, be mindful and pay attention and show respect and be appreciative to those people who come in your life, who reciprocate what you give. And just always remember, evaluate things, and remember, great minds reach great places. I love you. I mean it. Bye-bye.
Tune in and stream live now. Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, the podcast, is now being broadcast on NPN Voice. NPN Voice can be found on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud, and now on Audible and Amazon Music, and anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, the podcast, now on NPN Voice. NPN Voice. Got voice. You heard?
We're shining bright. And we're shining the light on us like no other. Neighborhood Planet. Our neighborhood, our world.
program was made possible by Neighborhood Planet Broadcasting Systems, Neighborhood Planet Network, and from contributions to NPNTv from viewers like you.